Welcome to Uncut with Lucia, and thank you for joining us. Today, we are speaking with Naveen Sridhar. Naveen is a chemical engineer and author of many books. So, Naveen, welcome to Uncut with me, Lucia.
Nice to meet you. It's quite a pleasure for me. Uh, I've been writing quite a few books in these days, and
Uh-huh.
it's nice to be talking to you about my books.
Yes, I'm super happy to have you here today. And Naveen, you have a PhD in chemistry and chemical engineering. Your first book is called A Complete Guide to Ventriloquism Principles, Practice, and Performance. So,
Right.
when did you first become interested in ventriloquism?
Uh, well, these things happen when you're very young. I was about 17 years old. Later on, I got into yoga, and through yoga, I found out the way to control the breath and make use of the breath to, to create a new voice, which is needed for ventriloquism. And and hold the breath and use the resonance of the body. And I did not go to any course. There was nothing like that. So I worked it out myself, and then I started performing. And first, when the voice was broken or about to break, I used to confuse the other voice with my second voice, which was coming now and again. There I noticed how it is wonderful to confuse the people, confuse the teachers. So then I picked up this voice and employed it. And it took me quite a lot of work. And that's the reason when I stopped and I completed and stopped doing ventriloquism on stage, I wrote the book because there was no book available. So I thought that's the best way of saying goodbye. That I've written about not only how to practice, but how to perform, how to think of the audience and the whole science between the behind the whole illusion that you create. It's not an optical illusion as in a magic, but it is something else. It's an audio illusion, and so I went in deeply into that, and so it's a complete guide. And I've given all that I knew, and those who are interested can pick that up. And I needed such a book. I didn't have any.
Wow, you are the first ventriloquist I've ever met.
Oh, really? Well, uh, it's all a matter of illusions. Let's say I take a glass and I say I call my voice into this. You will see that you see there's a change in voice. I don't change the voice. The voice changes because of the resonance. The resonance of this body is different than the resonance of the glass. This is empty. This is also empty, but, but there's a difference in the resonance. So for instance, now I got the voice synthesis here.
Uh-huh.
Well, there you go. So that's the way you start with ventriloquism. Then you can go into start singing. So I talk, so unterscheiden heute. So I talk. Then, and you can say,
That's so interesting. And
so
I was
now
always
I,
afraid
I've
of,
explained the whole thing about all. Now I've released all the secret.
yeah.
Okay.
And I was afraid when I was a kid about
Yeah,
ventriloquism.
yeah.
I think most of the kids they like it. It's
Yeah.
very. I think you must be very creative to be able to mimic someone else and
Yes, yes. So we've asked a lady to come on stage, and she brings a bag. Open the bag, and the bag start talking to me, and she gets confused. And then, what do you got in your bag? Oh boy! Hello, hey, close it. Hey, close it, close it. Okay. So you can create a lot of jokes like that. So put a man something in the pocket. And that coin starts grumbling. What do you want me to do here now? It's also dark. Take me out. Take some other coin. Yeah, yeah. That is the humorous part of my life.
It's very interesting. And Naveen, have you always wanted to be a writer? When you started?
It well, the point is this: it was my mother was a writer in two languages. She was quite famous in those days in India. Uh, but I was young. I knew what it's all about writing. She used to discuss the matters with my elder sisters about writing, how many pages, and all the intricacies of writing. But I never thought of writing for myself. Only after retirement, after I retired, I started writing. Mainly after my wife fell ill, I could not take any more appointments for ventriloquism or for magic or other things. I could not have me fix any appointment like as I am doing now with you, because I never knew what will happen to my wife, and it went on for some 18 years. And all this time, I was the only thing I could do is sit somewhere and write poems, poetry, and then I started writing. Uh, in this spare time you had, with 1 year, always making sure that my wife is okay. She used to have epileptic attacks and all that sort of stuff. Or she would be in the hospital, or I'll be waiting for the doctor to call me. So in these moments, I used to start writing. I wrote my diary, and later on, I wrote this book about the starlight in the. No, I'm sorry, I'm confusing myself. About the candlelight in the storm, and this was also a kind of a homage to my wife, because it is about the German women after the war, during the Cold War, and during the war and after the war. Germany was split into East Germany and West Germany, and it's the women who built up the first 10 years of the war. The men were all either dead or prisoners of war or invalids. So this is something again forgotten history, that how much the women did. They had to look after the children. There were no schools. They had to look after the heating. They had to go and work and earn the money. And all this, the women, most of the women, they were all, there was, anyway. So these stories I heard when I was there. I came about 15 years after the war. I stayed there in Berlin from 1960 onwards. And I used to hear many stories, not only from my wife later on, my mother-in-law, who lost her husband in the war in Crimea. So then I thought it's best to write up all this together and send my wife's biography through her eyes. She was a 2-year-old baby when during the war, when they had to leave Berlin. They were bombed off in Berlin. So from then on, through her eyes, what was going on around her, what was going on around the relatives. That was a very narrow perspective. And what was going on in the whole of Germany. They were in East Germany, they were back in West Germany, they were in Berlin, and the Bay of Pigs invasion and all this sort of thing. It's all Berlin was always on the world stage. So that is a bigger picture. And the biggest picture was the world politics. So all these things, how all these things really affected an average man's life. That's what's happening now in Ukraine. It's the same thing is happening now. So all these stories I brought as a biography. It's not a family biography. It's a biography of Germany, I could say, those 10 or 20 years of Germany. And she lived on all through the life, all through. She was not just a 6-year-old, 8 years after America. Quite few people of German descent left Germany, but she was there all along until the wall came down and until there was a unification. And I just finished the book 2 years before she passed away. So I could get the book. I wrote in English. I got it translated into German. I could give it to her in German so that because she was alive, I was checking all the facts that it should be true, it should be correct, and what she went through. I was not exaggerating anything. So I made sure because she was still alive, and then I could show her the book, and she could read the book that I wrote for her. And then 2015, 2 years later, she passed away. So that is the first book. The first book was a serious one and historical, but no fiction. There was no exaggeration, nothing adding at all. And that is easy for me because I was a scientist all my life. I could not think of writing something that I imagine. I had to check up. I had to make sure, doubly sure that it is true. It is true. Every number must be right. Every year must be right. but that is a good way for me to break into this imagination and accept the imagination and say that now if I write fiction, I can allow that. I'm not committing a crime.
And apparently your new book is fiction. Is that correct?
Oh yes, the new books are all fiction, but again, I'm such a coward. I stick to historical facts, and I try to connect the dots and fill in the gaps. And project and I always write what is already established and true, and what is not, what could become one day true. For instance, these two queens of Egypt and Hittite kingdom. Well, their role in the history is not it's confirmed, but it's my imagination. But the rest, the whole setting, everything is confirmed. So I look for that kind of a place. The other book about the first lady ever, first person, historical person, whoever was of literature, that is again a priestess. And she's the first person to say, write poetry and say that she wrote it. And so I quote her, and I made sure that it's all true what she has said, and the rest I imagine I added on. So I need this kind of, I still cannot do absolute new, let's say, scientific fiction. I don't know if I can ever make it. I feel somehow rebuked by my colleagues, by my peers, by my scientists saying that, what are you doing? You can't do that. Even if it's fiction, you shouldn't do that.
Like you're cheating.
Yeah. Yeah.
And Naveen, can you explain the significance of the title? It's your new book is entitled
Hittite and the Shaman. Well, in this book, the title is a Hittite and a Shaman because it rhymes with the other titles. It's the same kind of, starlight in the dawn, candlelight in the storm, a Hittite and a Shaman. So, and the subtitle is At Queen Nefertari's Secret Service. So in her secret service, she makes use of a Hittite, a foreigner, and a shaman, an Egyptian shaman. These two persons run around for her. She, as a queen, she cannot walk into all kinds of pubs and people and disguise herself. So they do the job for her. And so these three people work together, and she gives the directive, and finally she makes her case before the warriors, before all those who want to fight Hittites. She makes a case by a long talk, saying that she was not the kind of a talk where she's asking people to go to war, but on the contrary, she said, don't go to war, and this is how the case is. And so the Hittite and the shaman are the two persons who work for her, and they move the story, because a queen cannot move the story. She's sitting there. She cannot run around. The Egyptian queen cannot. Nor can you expect Queen Elizabeth to run around to the pubs in London.
And I think, how did you research for this book? I think it must be very difficult. I mean, a lot of work to be researching those times. Like,
Yes, yes, it is. Yeah, yes, it is. The point is, you must enjoy research, because research is reading and accepting and making sure that your way of thinking is right, correcting yourself, discovering. It's like tourism. I have an imagination of Spain. I come to Spain, then I keep on correcting my imagination, and again accepting certain things, and then again saying, "Hey, they're exactly the way I thought they are." So this discovery. So you enjoy doing the research, uh, and you must make sure that you don't get lost in it. Don't waste your time with all kinds of sundry, because someday you have to start writing the book. So you choose, and so that's an excursion. I enjoy research, and in historical research, it is not so true for scientific fiction. Also, there you had to make some confirmation of your scientific thoughts. But in historical research, it's history. So you choose the books, you read, compare the books. There are certain conflicting ideas. Some things are ascertained, some things are, they're also dreaming themselves. The historians are also not very sure. So that is very interesting. I would just say research is very interesting, and the story develops by itself. And another point is, once you start writing, uh, about halfway through the book or even earlier, the characters you have created they lead you.
yeah.
They tell you, they have their own conference at night. In the morning, they tell you what they have decided. so you fall in love with the characters. The last page you write, you feel very sorry to saying goodbye. Now I've done my best. You have done your best, boys, girls. You are wonderful. Okay, now I'm going to sell the book. So that's the joy that I have as a writer is alone. You have written a book. You're as a lonely self sitting all alone, conversing with yourself. You would rather sit watching yourself in a mirror.
Yeah. It takes a
lot of time, patience.
patience, and creativity as well. Because sometimes we wake up and we say, "What
Yeah,
am I going to write today?"
yeah,
I have
yeah,
no
yeah.
idea. But then the ideas start popping up and we start writing. We have to write, otherwise if we keep procrastinating,
Yeah,
of course
yeah.
the book will never be ready. And Naveen, I'm curious to know, what is your writing process? What is your writing process like? Do you have a specific hour of the day that you sit down and start writing, or it can happen anytime?
It can happen anytime. It can happen anytime. And mostly it's early in the morning. As I wake up, I have a good idea. And I used to tell my male colleagues, when I was still a scientist, uh, a wonderful idea is a great thing. It's wonderful to meet it's like meeting a wonderful girl. You're highly excited, but what happens is she would never let you go. So that's what happens. You have a wonderful idea. Now, on that day, this idea won't let me go. So I had to sit down, put it on paper, and formulate it. And that gives me such a push. It's such an excitement. So this I cannot hope for. It just happens. It's just like meeting a wonderful girl. Like I cannot expect it. Just happens. So the same way it happens, and that's the joy in it. And there'll be weeks, perhaps you have no idea at all. You just walk around, you feel frustrated, you don't know how to go ahead. That happens also. Take it in stride. It'll come back. The idea will come back.
It
Yeah.
will. And
I don't have to tell you. You have gone through all this.
yeah, but sometimes it doesn't work the way we plan. And it's also very good to see another author experience. And
Yeah, yeah.
Naveen, your latest book is already published. Let us know where we can find it, where we can find your books, where we can find you.
You can find it in Amazon.
Okay.
A Hittite and the Shaman. If you type that, you'll find it in Amazon. It's being sold in Amazon. That's the easiest way. And as an ebook or even as a printed book. So in both the versions.
Ebook and
a printed version, a paperback.
Okay, paperback. And Naveen, you have more plans to keep writing?
Yes, I'm writing now. I started writing another book, and I 1,000 years later. I was in 2,300, and I came to 1,500. Now I'm in 400 BC. 400 BC, I had another historical story about after Alexander the Great. The area is now today's Afghanistan, where the Greek culture met the Indian culture. So the two cultures getting together and impressing each other, influencing each other. So that's the age that I have picked up, and I started writing about that.
Wow, that is so impressive.
Yeah, I'll tell you, for research, you so much for research. You get into Indian literature, you get into Greek literature. So with that way, you see a lot of the world, and then you feel really, you never feel alone. You never feel lonely.
And do you have social media as well, website? So there is any other place where we can find you?
I got a website, but it is the best if any person could write to me, and the email address Naveen@Sridhar.de, to which you write. That's the best way, the easiest way, because I rarely check up my website. It's so I check every morning my email. So if it's best if a person writes to me.
I'll give that it to
Naveen@Sridhar.de for Germany.
Okay. Yes, you are in Germany. I miss going to Germany.
Yeah. Munich, yeah. You're welcome. You're welcome. Hope to see you. I hope to see you in 3 dimensions.
Yeah, thank you. I'll go there. I'll go back to see my friends. And of course, I'm going to see you in Munich. And Naveen, it was such a pleasure to speak with you. I hope we can meet again virtually or in person. It's like you are an excellent storyteller. And
thank you. Oh, thank you. Thank you. Keep in touch. Keep in touch, please. Nice to be talking to you.
Thank you for your time. And to our listeners, thank you very much for listening.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank
Goodbye.
you. Thank you. Tschüss.
Goodbye. Tschüss. Tschüss. Alles Gute. Tschüss.
Danke.